Coming up on the program, the UN raises concern over a sharp rise in the forced recruitment and abduction of children by armed groups in DR Congo. Opponents of attacks on the use of social media protest in Uganda. And Cameroon's presidential elections are scheduled to hold in October. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Temito Kwefagbemi. We begin today in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the United Nations says there has been a marked rise in the forced recruitment and abduction of children by armed groups. Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Children in Armed Conflict, Virginia Gamba, says they're often used as forced labor or sex slaves. She adds that a belief in magic means some children are used as a talisman in an attempt to make fighters invincible. According to the latest UN report, in the past 3 years, children were the victims of more than 11,000 grave violations across the DRC. In South Sudan, the UN Human Rights Agency says at least 232 civilians have been killed and 120 women and girls sexually violated by government troops and aligned forces in opposition-held villages. An investigation by the agency identified 3 commanders suspected of bearing the greatest responsibility in the violence in Unity State between April 16 and May 24. Spokesperson for the agency, Ravina Shamsadani, told reporters during a news briefing in Geneva that the violence and brutality may amount to war crimes.
The report documents acts that constitute gross violations and abuses of international human rights and humanitarian law that may amount to war crimes. The investigation has also identified 3 individuals who may bear the greatest responsibility for the violations committed. We are calling on the government to halt all attacks against civilians and to launch investigations. The perpetrators of these revolting acts against defenseless civilians, including those bearing command responsibility, must not be allowed to get away with it. There must be consequences for the men who reportedly gang-raped a 6-year-old child, who slit the throats of elderly villagers, who hanged women for resisting looting and shot fleeing civilians in the swamps where they hid. Those who ordered and facilitated these horrific crimes must be brought to account.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed says it is evident that women can be the agents of a new and necessary approach in the world. She made this comment while addressing the Security Council upon her return from a joint UN-African Union mission to South Sudan, Niger and Chad. While briefing the Council during its open meeting on women, peace and security in the Sahel, Mrs. Mohammed also says there is a clear need to keep countries experiencing turmoil today from becoming the failed states of tomorrow.
With today's conflicts greater in both number and complexity, it is more important than ever to find the path to peace building and sustainable development for all. Across the 3 countries we visited, it is evident that women can be the agents of a new and necessary approach. It is critical that we all step up. This means urgently increasing our budget support for development in these and other fragile countries. It is a matter of human dignity first and foremost, but it is also a matter of peace and security. Investment in development must be transformative. It must support not only scaled-up integrated projects, as we saw in Niger when we visited the UN program that brought together health, nutrition, agriculture, water and sanitation alongside women's empowerment, recognizing the context of climate change.
Uganda's government has announced that the social media and mobile money taxes imposed on customers will be reviewed. The 200 shilling tax on the daily use of apps like Twitter and Facebook has led to protests in the country. Earlier today, the police fired tear gas and live bullets into the air to disperse a small protest over the newly imposed social media tax. Opponents of the tax gathered in the capital city of Kampala, led by popular musician and Member of Parliament Robert Kuyungulani, who is better known as Bobby Wine. Protesters say the tax, which took effect at the beginning of July, is killing youth innovation and entrepreneurship. Here in Nigeria, the Kaduna State High Court has again adjourned hearing on a bail application for the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, till August the 2nd. Justice Gideon Kurada adjourned sitting following an application filed by counsel to the defendant, Maxwell Keon, who requested a new date to enable him move his application for the bail. El-Zakzaky and his wife, who earlier arrived in court amidst tight security, have been arraigned by the Kaduna State government on 8 counts, including alleged culpable homicide, unlawful assembly and disturbance of public peace.
Other 2 defendants that are listed on the charge have still not been served. And so the prosecution simply asked for another date to intensify effort to serve them, probably by substituted means. And we had also filed a bail application that we had hoped we were going to be able to move today. Unfortunately, it was sometime yesterday, very late in the evening, that I was served with a response to that bail application. So we also asked for a short date to enable us to respond to the said counter affidavit that was filed by the state so that we can take the bail application.
The court adjourned to the 2nd of August to enable the defendants move the application for bail, and also pending which we will be able to regularize our processes and effect service on the 3rd and 4th. The 3rd and 4th respondents, well, the matter is before the court. It is not for us to I don't want to go into details, but they are all members of the IMN. The matter is before the court, please. I don't want to go into details.
A brief of what transpired in court.
Well, like I said earlier, the matter was adjourned to today for further mention to enable the state effect service on the 3rd and the 4th respondents. We've been unable to serve the charge on them.
Why are you
Why are we?
Yes.
Well, the matter is before the court.